Today's video, we're going to talk about PPC CRMs and what CRMs are going to be best for you to use to pair with your Google Ads and or Facebook ad campaigns. Given that the biggest concern when using a CRM is, A, are you going to be able to track your PPC leads in your CRM? That is, you can run a report saying this is how much I made from my PPC campaign over time. And then also B, am I going to be able to get the data from my CRM back into my ad account so that my ads are going to be able to continuously get better and better and more profitable over time. And I'm going to talk about both of those main concerns here, given that I manage dozens of accounts. I take tracking very seriously at our ad agency, and I'm going to explain the pitfalls of using these various CRM systems and what's the best CRM system for you to be able to use to do these two things at the highest level possible, given that most convenient to use on the CRM side is not going to be what's most profitable on the ad side. And I'm going to talk about those details here. What I've done here is I've sketched out kind of the process that I would go through personally if I were running your company and want the absolute best results from your ads. Now, this again isn't going to be the best CRM system that you may not like the best, but as it comes to running PPC ads, this is what you want to do, given that there are flaws and there are things that you have to know about in reference to collecting lead data in your CRM that block the CRM data from coming through or the PPC data from coming through. I'm going to go over those details. So for the most part, first off, if you don't already know, you need to be tracking both phone calls and form fills. Unless you have less than 10% of your total PPC leads coming in by phone, you need to track both because it's going to massively change your results tracking both. And to track the phone calls, the best software to do that is CallRail. And to track the forms, you can just use a simple Google Analytics account. The best would be server-side tracking because it's going to track the most form submissions of all. If you want to track 100% of the submissions versus 80+% of the submissions itself. So that's just a small tip right off the bat. Beyond that, given that ultimately you cannot do server-side tracking with call tracking, at least when you're doing dynamic number swapping, which essentially is where you have your phone number showing up on your website, but it's done on the user level so that when the user loads the website, a unique number shows up for them so that if you have multiple people on the site at the same time, you can still track each caller individually and therefore what that person actually typed in and so forth before they got to the website and before they called, which is all very important to get your proper tracking in your ad account and your proper results out of your ad spend. You got some other concerns here. What I would do, the easiest thing to do is to send your form data and your phone call data to your CallRail account, both, because you can with CallRail do form activation. So where every single form submission on your entire website is going to be picked up by CallRail and it's in there. So it's in there and the call data is in there. And so all your leads are tracked. If you, by the way, do text message marketing, that can also show up in your CallRail account and you can track those as well. It's all in one place, ultimately. From there, you want to just send the data to your Salesforce or Zoho CRM, which are the two CRMs I would recommend. They're good CRMs to use. They integrate well with CallRail. You ultimately are going to be happy with them at the end of the day. When it comes to software, by the way, it doesn't pay to use cheaper, no-name software because the main problem with that is it doesn't integrate with anything very well. And most softwares, in order to get the best use from it, it has to integrate with other stuff, not to mention it's buggy and so forth. So the cheaper price is generally basically never worth it. I had to learn this the hard way myself, and most people ultimately always do. Zoho is basically like a cheaper Salesforce, which for the most part, it does just fine. So if you're on a budget, I would go with Zoho. But with that said, going back to some of the pitfalls here, one thing you want to do with your CallRail account that nobody I hear talking about is going back to what I was saying before, the user has to have a dedicated number show up for just them in order to track them on an individual level so that in your CRM and then eventually your ad account, you can see what keyword they typed in, what ad they clicked on, and otherwise, and all that stuff. Given that, if you do what most people do when they start doing call tracking with track, they just put a tracking number on the web page. That's not going to track all these individual things. It'll track if somebody called or not, and then that is it. And then whether they came from Google ads or not, or Facebook ads or not, but it's not going to tell you the individual user data points, keywords, audiences that they came from, and so forth, which is all where the real results from running ads is. So you got to do dynamic call swapping. That said, if because of ad blockers, which are up to 30% of users nowadays, the phone number will show up on your user's web browser when they download your website, if and when they are able to download and render the JavaScript code that CallRail gives you that is on the website. If they have an ad blocker, the ad blocker is set up to not render JavaScript code like that from CallRail, which will not allow the tracking number to show up on the user's browser. In order to actually kind of bridge the gap here and make sure you're still tracking all your calls, or as best as you can anyway, what we do at our agency is you have a static tracking number, because you can, in CallRail, again, you can do static and dynamic call tracking. Dynamic being the one that shows a different number to every person who's on the site versus one for everybody. And they're using an ad blocker and it doesn't allow the dynamic number to show up. You've at least got the static number that will show up behind it. You at least get the call tracked. Whether you get all the metadata about the call, you want that, but you can't get it every time. So you get it when you can, and when you can't get it, you still track that call to the static number that will show up by default if it isn't replaced by the dynamic number. And you simply set that up so the dynamic number will look for the static number, and then it'll replace that static number, if you will. That'll make sure all your calls end up in your CRM at the end of the day, whether they are using an ad blocker or not. Even though if they used an ad blocker, the call will show up in your CRM system. If you're using a Zappier account to send the data to the CRM, which is what I would suggest to use, the call will show up. They didn't have an ad blocker. The actual keyword, all that information about the user and what ad they clicked on and so forth will be in that CRM waiting for you as well, assuming that you have fields in your CRM to collect that data, which you should. If they are using an ad blocker, it'll just say this person called and it's from Google Ads, and then that'll be the extent of it, or Facebook ads if you're running Facebook ads. Now, also, in addition to what I just said about ad blockers, if the user is using an ad blocker, CallRail, it picks up every form submission on the site, it's not going to work ultimately. So what I would also recommend you do is take the form submissions with the Zappier account that you have and have the form submissions get sent to your CRM and look for a form submission. If it sees one in there that has been sent from CallRail, it won't add it to your CRM. But if it doesn't see it, then it will send the data there. So it's basically your backup. It's going to look to make sure CallRail sent the form submission details with all the person's details about where they came from, what keyword they typed in, and so forth. If it's not there, it's going to be sent there to this backup mechanism, which is going to be done through your Zappier account as well. In order to get the details about the keyword they typed in and the ad they clicked on and so forth through this backup mechanism that doesn't use CallRail, what you do is you add what is called hidden form fields to your contact form. You add a hidden field, basically just like it sounds. It's a field on your form that you can't see, but it's meant there to get the keyword, the ad the user clicked on, and so forth, which the way that it works is those hidden form fields pick up data from the URL bar. At the end of the URL, when the user clicks on an ad, there'll be details at the end of the URL, of which is grabbed and sent with the hidden form field. These are typically called UTM tags. You can add whatever UTM tags you want to your end of your ad URL, so that when the user clicks on your ad, that information's in the URL, so that it's able to be picked up by the hidden form field on your form and can be sent to your CRM if the person was using an ad blocker. By default, the ad platforms are going to send and have a lot of the UTM tags on your URL by default. If you start wanting to collect certain things like one audience over another audience, you could set up custom UTM tags, and then that information will be in your CRM along with the form lead itself, just as a small side piece of information. But generally speaking, you would normally what is going to be there by default in the end of the URL, sent by the ad platforms and set up by the ad platforms itself. That is your main mechanism to get, in my opinion, the easiest way to get data into your CRM. Why? Because a lot of people will say, well, Corey, I can just set up the Salesforce form code on my website. All the information will show up in my CRM. Don't do that. Why? Because the tracking you need for your ad account is not going to be reliable by using an iframe, which is what those embeddable contact forms are. So you don't want to do that at all. You want to either send the data through a Zappier account to your CRM or using CallRail, which I recommend CallRail because it's easy, and then just have this backup mechanism going on here at the end of the day. And of course, if you just wanted to use the backup mechanism for the contact forms, you could do that itself. But because I'm going to have CallRail tracking the form submissions anyway, because I want to be able to send data from CallRail back to the ad platform, I'm going to use that because it's this there anyway. But that is your full mechanism to get, in my opinion, the data into your CRM as easy as possible and reliably as possible to go along with it. Now, getting the data from the CRM back into your ad platform, Google, Facebook, that's a whole different topic that we need to go over. I'm going to start talking about that here next. The first thing to know is when you're talking about getting the CRM data from your CRM, Zoho, Salesforce back into your ad platform, first of all, it's very important to do. You're going to make at least 3 times as much money from your ad account tracking whether the leads you got are qualified and whether they buy and how much they spend, or scoring the leads if they don't typically close right away. It's a long sales cycle. And predicted deal size. For different niches, I would do tracking of different things there. But you'll make easily 3 times as much money optimizing for profit or at least higher quality leads than just leads in general, because the cheapest leads are never the best leads. It statistically never is that way. Say this is too difficult, I don't care about it. Just assume you're going to make 1/3 as much money, which in my mind, out of all the stuff you can do in your business that's going to triple your profitability, and how hard it is to do that in terms of managing people, hiring people, this is an absolute cakewalk in comparison. Yes, it's a little bit technical to get it set up, and you potentially have a VA that you hire to help maintain this, but for a couple $100 a month to triple your profits, you're an absolute moron if you don't want to do this, just to say it frankly. So for the CRM, to get the data back into the ad platform, you got 2 options. You can send your data from your CRM to your CallRail account, or you can send your data from your CRM to your ad account directly. Now, the pros of sending the data to your CallRail account and then the CallRail account to your ad account, given that CallRail has a direct integration with Google Ads as well as Facebook Ads, is the fact that, at least for Google Ads, CallRail is connected to your Google Ads account through the API. Because it's connected through the API, it can send a G-braid and W-braid versus just strictly only Google Click IDs. Google Click IDs, just as a quick refresher on this, if you don't know what this is, it's the ID that Google assigns to every ad click so they know who you're talking about. So when you say, hey, this person came through and bought, they know who you're talking about. It's like a serial number tied to every ad clicker on their system, if you will. Google Click ID or GCL ID, and that actually ends up in the end of the URL on the user's web browser when and after they've clicked on the ad. The mechanism I mentioned before will get that Google Click ID into your CRM, and then when the person buys, assuming you want to track those sales in your ad account, you're just simply taking that Google Click ID and you're sending it back to the ad platform. Facebook has the Facebook Click ID, LinkedIn has the LinkedIn Click ID, and all the main ad platforms got their own Click ID system that operates the same way. When you're talking about Google, because of the Apple privacy stuff that came up recently, people that are using Apple mobile devices, they block the Google Click ID. So as a workaround, Google came out with this G-braid or W-braid system. And from what I've seen, about 10% of the users who click on your Google ads are on a incompatible device. You'll see, instead of a Google Click ID being at the end of the URL, a W-braid or G-braid will be there. If you have the G-braid or W-braid and you try to upload this directly to your ad account, it won't accept it, using the manual process of taking a spreadsheet and saying, here Google, here's all the Google Click IDs, here's all the people that bought, and then of course they say, aha, I know who those people are. Here you can see them in your ad account now. They typed in this, they did this, they were from here, they were on this device, and so forth. So you can optimize your ads from that information. 10% of your sales are going to be uploadable because of this G-braid, W-braid. Unless, or if you don't have CallRail, generally speaking, the best setup to get the most data into the ad platform is, instead of sending the data from the CRM to Google directly, it's to send it to CallRail and then have CallRail send it to Google Ads, because it's going to be able to upload the G-braid or W-braid. This is done through the Google Ads integration, And this is done through updating the value box under your lead in CallRail, because you can have, when that value box is input or updated next to each lead, that sends the data back into your ad account. Of course, technically the CRMs can send data to Google Ads, and including the G braid and W braid as well. However, it's very, very unreliable. I've talked about in other videos how scandalous even Salesforce is, where we had a situation where we weren't even paying our Salesforce account. The subscription was lapsed. We weren't using it. For some reason, Salesforce is sending conversion data to our Google Ads account. In my mind, it's clear what they're doing, which is they want people to think that their Salesforce account is making them money indirectly, and you keep your subscription. Either that or it's going haywire, but I guarantee you it was set up right. You cannot rely on the data. And Zoho's basically just as bad. They don't do exactly what I just mentioned there, but it seems to only send some of the data, not all the data. And when it comes to tracking, you can't be tracking half your data and expect much to happen. It's almost worse than nothing. You got to be able to get 90% of it get uploaded, or at least 80+% in order to get a benefit from uploading the sales data to the platform to begin with. So your real only options, in my experience, is to either upload it manually, or if you want the best result, upload it to CallRail and then let CallRail through the Google Ads integration send it directly to Google Ads. Technically, the best option for you, given that it can upload G braid and W braid as well. For that matter, though, if you want to get the ultimate best of the best solution going on, because somebody that's on an ad blocker won't be in CallRail, and if you're trying to send data from CallRail to Google Ads about the offline conversion that you got or the sale that occurred, then what you can do in addition to that is also upload manually the same conversions, if you will. And that is, if you picked up through your form and it got sent to your CRM, going back to that, and add those conversions that way. So do a manual plus your CallRail in addition, if you will. If you want to automate the process of sending the sales data you're getting on the back end to the ad platform, I recommend actually using CallRail API. So what you would do is you'd pull data out of your CRM about all the leads that came from PPC and the corresponding Google Click ID, Facebook Click ID, whatever. And then I would have it get sent to CallRail, update the records in CallRail related to those same leads, and then have CallRail send it to the ad platform. If you want to automate the process versus letting the CRM's platform integration with the ad platform do the sending of the Google Click ID or Facebook Click ID to the ad platform, because it's super unreliable. I don't use it. I don't recommend anyone using it. And that's also the case with HubSpot. All these main CRMs, I've seen the integrations that they have for the ad platforms, and they don't work reliably. In my mind, it's because that's not what they're set up for, and it's not their priority to really maintain it. And Google systems updating all the time, and they just don't prioritize it. Whereas CallRail's business is ad tracking. They're going to stay on top of it, and they're going to devote much resources to making sure the integration with CallRail and the ad platform is always spot on. If you want to automate, you send your data through CallRail and then have it sent to the ad platform directly, or just straight up have your data from your CRM, put it into a spreadsheet, and then upload it manually yourself. Because Facebook, Google, all these platforms have manual ways to send the data to them. You don't have to set it up through an automated means. And you can obviously hire a VA to maintain and send the data from your CRM to the ad platform for you on a regular basis. That would be just as good a way to so-called automate the process versus using software to strictly do it. And I also like to use manual uploads as well, because if a human's reviewing it, they can do things such as, a lot of times somebody buys, but it was somebody else that initially inquired. If you had somebody inquire and in your CRM it says this person inquired and here's their Google Click ID, and then they bought, but really it was another contact who initially inquired, you can actually have a human merge those two together so that the actual offline conversion still gets sent to the ad platform correctly. Or maybe a husband inquired and then the wife put the order through, same kind of thing. You can find out people with the same name and the same time frame that came through and then merge those two things together ultimately. So that's something else to consider. I know this is probably enough to make your head almost explode, all these different little things that you have to know. Bottom line, I say them all so you are aware of what the issues with using a CRM, and as it comes to making sure that you're actually able to upload the proper data into your ad account being the most important thing that you should be focusing on if you're not doing it already, given that, like I mentioned before, you're going to make tons more money optimizing for profit because you're here to make profit. You're not here to generate leads. And you got to know that stuff going in, as well as your CRM is not going to get all the data either if you don't understand how to actually have the proper system to get data from running your ads and then getting all that information to the CRM so none of it gets lost whatsoever, which the process that I told you will make sure of that. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you absolutely should. I've got the best information on how to make money with ads, millions of dollars a year, like I do for clients at an advertising firm and for our own agency. If you want to know and learn from the best, somebody who's actively in the weeds doing the work, this is the channel for you. You're not going to find other people with 50 different accounts that they're testing stuff on an ongoing basis telling you the same information. Also, I've got a great blog on my site at guaranteeppc.com/blog where you should check that out because I've got tons of information there as well about how to actually make money with ads, where I've documented it step by step with screenshots, with everything you need to use. So I highly recommend you check that out as well. Do you have any questions about anything I'm covering here? By the way, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. You can also reach out to me through my Discord group. I got a link to that in the description of this video, as well as through my site at guaranteeppc.com. I offer PPC management services, managing ads on Google, Facebook, all the main ad platforms. We offer a guaranteed result to our clients. That is, what we do is we promote that you are going to get a certain minimum lift in your profitability of your ads up front before we charge management fees. And if we don't, then there's no management fee. No other agency out there does anything like this. I also have a couple of the things I do. I do coaching and consulting as well. If you'd like to set up a private conversation with me, just reach out to me through my site, as well as sell ad templates. If you are in a market that we've already been in already, we can tell you the winning ads and landing pages that work for your market. And we can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front. And then at that point in time, you just have to copy and paste the template into your ad account and get the same results we did. I've worked in hundreds of markets, so the chances are quite high I've already got the template you're looking for. With all that said, going into kind of the summary of all this, there's a lot of different CRMs out there that you can use. Yes, you shouldn't use a CRM that you hate just for the purposes making your PPC campaigns work. I'm not advocating that. Out of the main ones that I would use, Salesforce, though, and then if you wanted a third option, I would say HubSpot is pretty decent. Just know, do not use the direct integration from the CRM with the ad platform. It does not work like you think. And also, do not use the embeddable forms from these CRMs on your website. It's going to absolutely kill your ad campaign performance doing this. If you had to, of course, there's a workaround where you can grab the click ID from the form by adding a hidden form field there, potentially, and get around it, but just simply don't use it. Send the data to your CRM through your Zappier account, and then get it back in your ad platform, again, by doing it manually, most likely for if you're not too technical, or sending it through your CallRail account, ideally, and then having that get sent onto your ad platform, because you're going to get the best data into your ad account that way, and a lot more of it, because as it comes to ads, you can try to figure out the next best ad that works, but you don't have to do any of that if you can just make your tracking better. Switching to server-side tracking, getting more data into the account, so instead of 60-70%, get 80-90%, and making sure the data is higher quality, and data that references or is more closely aligned to a purchase than to a lead. And all that makes you more money, and all of it can be easily replicated. You can send this exact video to a tracking expert, say, do all this, implement it. 12 months from now, you're going to be making a lot more money from your ads because you're now in position to have the ad platform optimized for profit because you've racked up a certain amount of data in your account, and now you're in position to utilize it, and the ad platform is going to run a lot more smart for you on your behalf. With your investment, you're going to be able to probably scale your account also, and a lot more thereof than you would otherwise, only being able to pay so much for a lead because you're just getting mediocre leads versus 80-90% of your leads being solid because the platform's getting data about which leads are solid from you. And that's how you actively go and do it. And that's the biggest reason why your profitability goes up. You're able to pay more for a lead because you're going to go after good quality leads versus bad. And then you can outbid your competition for the best leads. And now you get a lot more of them. You see how this all works together. The real pros are doing exactly what I'm talking about on this video. The amateurs are still optimizing for just regular leads, where they're not even tracking anything at all, and they're making a small sliver of what the guys that are doing stuff like I'm talking about here are actually making. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.